So I have this contour on this edge where I'm going to lay my backboard um, over this wall. So I do have to create a template, and you just take a piece of cardboard again, and you're just kind of working along, taking little bits at a time until you get to kind of the shape that you need and the height that you need, so you can make better cuts. I'm going to need to make a cut for the wheel well and then the gas tank bulge as well. So just been kind of working this piece of cardboard here. It's getting pretty close. I want a little bit of a gap here on this edge because I'm going to lay something flat on that back edge as well as where the bed post will be, so we can get that covered up later, but I do want to get this back piece on now just so I can get it stained and everything and ready to go. Okay, I'm just tying up some loose ends on this back side. I want to get this sealed in so it can be ready to drop the back panel on. So I got to make sure this is all filled in really tight with insulation, and then I can seal this up, and then I can be able to drop on the panel and get that at least squared away. I've just been having to make sure that I get all these bottom edges kind of taped up and sealed, so you can kind of see down there. I did squeeze in some styrofoam on that bottom 1.5 inches, and then just taped it to that. This side where the vent is going to be, I had to fill it with foam, and then I filled in a couple gaps with the wool. I put in this foam piece and kind of got that all set up and ready. I will have to put risers in because the vent does need to close from the bottom, and it was a little bit short on that width, so I put risers in. It still should fall below this threshold here, and that's what's kind of where the wood's going to sit on it all the way across the panel. That will run all the way across because that will be mostly covered by the bed and cabinetry. Okay, so I got to rip this piece to fit in as my backing on the van side, the driver's side. Okay, I got the template for the back corner lined up and got it marked out. I'll just use a jigsaw to cut that off, and then I should be able to snug that into the back corner there, and then I'll be able to get better gauge of where I need to cut for the wheel well and the gas tank, since it's going to sit a little bit off the ground. I decided to kind of go above this like little ridge line that's on the bottom here, and once we get that in, we can stencil out to the wheel well and then the gas tank. So now looking down under the bottom, I kind of lined up that spot there and kind of follow that contour on both sides, and then I'll line up the stencil on that and make sure I have a proper line going over that. Then I laid out this piece of Reflectix that I cut out as the stencil, so trace around that, make a couple double check measurements just from the back here to the front corner, just so I know where to start for sure, and then we'll get that cut out with a jigsaw. So I'm just taking another piece of Reflectix and using this back ridge with the back of the pen to mark that contour. And then my stop gaps is 2x4, so I know I gotta cut that flat, and that should work as a good reference point to start. Okay, I got that rough marked with the stencil I cut out. So now we'll take that off, kind of see where we line up. Okay, got that all cut in to fit. Now the last thing to do is to cut the hole for the wires, which comes out above the gas tank. One thing I did want to try to do is mark out where my studs were in line with the wall here. So I have those all marked with masking tape, so once I put that panel up I still know where my main joists are behind here. Okay, now I got this all cut out, prepped. Gonna start applying the stain now, and we're gonna do that with a roller just so I can get the fastest coverage possible, and then we can let it sit, and then we'll wipe it down with the terry cloth sponges just so we get an even finish on it. But I did run a 220 grit sandpaper over it just to take out any blemishes, anything that'll stick out with the stain. Alright, now that that's dry, I'm going to throw a layer of poly on it, get the first coat on. Gonna throw down the second layer of poly on this bad boy, and then that'll be set to go. My next step is going to be creating these slats. So these slats are going on over the top of this just to kind of create a little contrast. It'll also be where I'll house the string lights. It'll be almost like a weave down. I'll have about 2-inch gap between them. So I mean, I got these, they're 3/4 inch. I'm gonna bring them down to a 1/2 inch with the planer. Luckily I do have one of these, so it can take off that 1/2 inch pretty quick. Those are about 3/4 inch, so need to run all those through, get those down to size. Then we'll have to route the edges, get them stained, get those ready to go. Okay, now instead of routing, I'm just going to rip the corners off these with the table saw, so we'll get that going. Alright, so now I just want to give these edges a quick sand using 180 grit. I already ran the tops through the planer, but I just want to get this edge kind of cleaner to allow for the lighting to adhere to. So I'm just going to use the sander on that and run through all these. For these, I'm going to be doing a golden pecan. I'm going to try to tie that in with the cabinetry more, and it'll be a nice contrast with the mahogany on the inside. So I'll probably only put a coat on, see how that looks, and it should be good enough. It should be light enough. Keep everything light inside. What you doing, Bobber? Hunting? Okay, so before I put this panel on, I'm just kind of marking out the spacing of where the slats are going to go. So I marked my first one, it'll be right here, about 3 inches down. Then they're 3.5 inch slats, and I want the screws to be hidden by the actual slat that goes across. I don't want it, you know, sticking out on the other in the dark area where I kind of want to showcase. So it's going to fall, you know, kind of on the lower part of the slat down here, so I can drive the screw into the middle of the slat. And I made measurements, and kind of, since this end will drop, you know, it's shorter from ceiling to floor, I kind of had to, you know, kind of give myself some leeway, so when it gets down here I'll make sure that it'll still cover. But so now I think I'm pretty much ready to drop in the panel. Okay, so got it in the van. Gonna feed through these wires. Place here. It's nice to kind of hold it. countersink bit. And all I'm going to be using is these damn wood screws. I don't need anything fancy because these things are going to be hidden. Just to keep my lines. Again, I'm just using the tape on the floor to see where my beams are. Okay, so I got the one middle row screwed in. I didn't record all this, so there's a lot of screwing around trying to find new screws, because these ones that just, they're deck screws, so the top really wants to bite in, and I'm just hearing it snap and crack, so I just switched over to these stainless 1-inch. Really nice to be inexpensive to be hiding, but it's just what I have on hand right now, so use that, it's fine. And that went pretty smooth. Measurements went fine. Seemed to be in there pretty taut, so pretty happy with it. So keep moving on. Okay, so once I got those in, I measured from that top of the board, and then I marked down how far that was, and then I'm just going down the line with that same measurement just to keep them as even as possible. I would like to use a level, I'm just not on level ground, so that's why I'm doing that.